What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode in the road to $1,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue. This week it was kind of quiet. Because of that, obviously we're going to go into analytics, but we're also going to go into how I'm using AI, how I'm trying to bankrupt Anthropic by always hitting my weekly limit, and everything I have behind the scenes that makes the app run and keeps the flywheel going. Before all that though, if you're new here, I'm Grayson. I'm a developer, and I've been a developer for a while, but I've always wanted to build something that made real money. It's really easy to exist inside a company and never deliver real value, and so I'm trying to deliver that in the open, in public. And in this series, I don't just start from multi-millions. I start from absolute zero, and I show you absolutely everything, all of my analytics, all of my numbers, my highs, my lows, everything I'm trying. So you get to learn as I learn what works, what doesn't work, and how we're actually doing. Okay, so analytics. How did we look this week? We're gonna run through it really quick. It's not super interesting. Call out some of the interesting things. Our MRR dropped to $7 a month from 12 last week. That's because we had one of our monthly trials, or our only monthly trial churn. And so it's unfortunate, but we'd prefer to have people who, are using the app. So, if you're not using it, I'm not upset about a churn. Just would love to see that go up still. Our downloads were 12 this week, so that's super positive. That's the highest I think we've gotten in a week in a long time, definitely the highest without ads. So that's a big boon there. And then our people who saw the paywall were also 12. So that is a really good rate. You don't want people to drop off. So getting all the way to the paywall is absolutely great. Really happy about that. We only had one trial start. But that's within the realm of possibility. That's with the new paywall that we've tried, so it somewhat works. At least there's no bugs. That's good to see. One thing I do want to call out is we looked at our web traffic, and interestingly, we saw two things on our web traffic that I'm super excited about. If we look at our sessions for the last 7 days and where they originated from, 9 of them were from Google and 8 of them were from ChatGPT. So what that means is people somehow are able to find our site via AI and find our site via Google, and are actually going all the way through. That's really exciting to see. We've been putting in a lot of work to get mentioned on AI and to get mentioned on Google. So to see those kind of start to pick up is really positive. Hoping that continues and we can see a ton of traffic from that at some point. But I wanted to talk about how I actually run the app, a little bit of behind the scenes. So the app is entirely run through one interface and one app, and unsurprisingly, that's Claude. I use Claude for everything. I think it's somewhat interchangeable with Codex as well. I've used them both. I don't find them to be all that different. I like Opus's attention to detail like a slight bit more, just so that's why I'm using it. All my analytics, all my metrics, all my everything were apps that were chosen because of their integration and the ability for Claude to handle them. So like PostHog has a great MCP so that Claude can directly talk to it. And I don't even have to worry about, navigating the portal or having Claude navigate the portal, which is more likely what I would have done. I use routines quite a bit, and I have 3 that are really helpful. 2 of them are related to our SEO, or I don't even know if it has a name, AIEO. Sounds like I'm listing vowels, but our optimization for searches, all one of them does is 3 times a week it goes and posts a blog on our site, and then it goes to Google and makes sure Google has that new page indexed, and then weekly we have another one that checks that all of our pages are indexed, sees if any of them are showing up, does some tests, and makes sure that all of the directions that we could go are correct. It basically just assesses how far along we are and if it thinks SEO is working, and looks at metrics and tries to adjust that in real time so that we don't just kind of go down this path that we set out 3 months ago, and then it eventually just flounders because nobody checked on it. And then the last routine I have is a weekly metrics review. So it looks at all of our metrics super in depth. It looks at click-through rate on App Store. It looks at website, looks at website to App Store. It looks at everything that people did in the app, and it tries to determine if there's a glaring issue with any component of that, and if we need to tweak it or improve some component of it. But those are somewhat basic routines that I run somewhat frequently. I want to talk about what I think I'm doing well with AI. and that is breaking down tasks to the right level for them. So I was a super early adopter of AI when ChatGPT 3.5 came out. I was using it full time at work immediately, and I've been using it probably at least every weekday since. So I've seen where it struggles and where it can do well. And one of the things I've noticed is it struggles a lot in implementation details. So I've told a lot of people this. I think that I treat AI basically as an intern or somebody in college or a junior engineer. Somebody who's eager to get stuff done, wants to present to you, that something has been done, but at the same time doesn't really have good judgment on what direction you wanted to go, what you meant, how it should test correctly, stuff like that. So if you want proper testing, proper anything, you need to explicitly tell the agent that. So if I think about something that I was able to improve quite a bit, at the beginning of my app, there's an animation, and I'll try to show it up here. And the animation is just a scrolling. It's supposed to represent, you're scrolling infinite recipes, and then you pick one, and the app is what helps you kind of pull out a recipe out of infinite noise. Now, I think a lot of people would have said that they want an animation at the beginning of their app and something, and that's it. Or they would say they want an animation at the beginning of their app that demonstrates what the app does, right? And that's fine, right? But if you think about what a junior engineer or somebody who's, newer in their career would do, they would probably take that, make a random animation from somewhere they copied, come back to you, and whether it worked or not is, I wouldn't even say a coin flip. It's just probably not going to make a lot of sense. So instead, I'll always do things like this. I'll take that problem, I want an animation at the start of my app I want it to be a visual sales motion. I want it to visually kind of tell you what the app does and sell it to you. And the line I'm looking for is pick recipes out of noise, or kind of help you, eliminate that dinner decision fatigue. And then, so what I told it is I want it to be, the start of it needs to be kind of chaotic, and then, it needs to simplify and show that, that's what we're doing, right? And then I told it to iterate through 5 different textual ideas. So just give me, text ideas. Because if you tell it to jump into animation, it will understand that idea, but won't be able to properly sort out what a good direction is. Once it gave me those 5 ideas, I read through them all. One of them was what exists now, which is the 4 scrolling lanes, and then it pauses and it picks one and it expands. I said that one looks good. I asked it to jump into it, and then what I wanted it to do is look at each frame individually. So I told it to do that to make sure there was no clipping or odd behavior or blinking or anything like that. If you don't do that, it will just kind of look at the animation. If it vaguely works, it'll be like, yeah, it works, fine. Kind of like a junior engineer does. So that's what I've been doing to get AI to give me really good results. Just breaking down problems into very, very specific outcomes that I want, that I know AI can confidently test against. It's usually a lot more planning on the front end, but once you're done with the plan, you can oftentimes just give it to AI and it will spit back out something that is much closer to what you were hoping for, rather than kind of iterating on nowhere. That also lets me execute on some really, really big ideas and not burn a ton of tokens. So one thing I also try to do is hit my token limit almost every single week, whether that's, just spamming ideas at it or having it think all the time. I try to make it hit somewhere near my weekly token limit, just to get the most out of the $200 a month subscription. Obviously that helps with getting better output, but I think, in my opinion, there are 2 different metrics I'm going for when I'm using AI. And one is an output that matches what I expected, and 2 is a long-running task. So I want a super long-running task, because usually if I'm planning it right, a super long-running task means that I get a ton done. and I don't have to mess with it at all, and it doesn't run into any judgment calls. And then I also want obviously the output that I was intending. So it helps me do both of those. And what those help me do is max out my week. I max out my week or get close to maxing out my week pretty frequently. I'm always getting that warning at the bottom of my Claude that says I'm about to max it out. Anthropic loses like $6,000 to $8,000 when you max out that weekly subscription. So doing that is getting a great deal for you. And I presume that deal won't last forever. You know, we've all seen the pattern of VC money flooding into a company, it being really, really, really cheap to use. And then later on, it eventually becomes more and more expensive. I think Uber's the classic example of that, or any of the delivery apps really. But I'm always trying different apps, different angles, telling it different things, adding different things to memory, managing its memory and stuff like that. So I'm always really interested in improving my workflow there. So that's how I use AI. If anybody has any other tips or any like interesting things they use it for, I'd love to hear them in the comments. So next week, hopefully we'll get back to talking about the app a little bit more. Hopefully that trial converts and we can get back to, I think it would get us back to our $12 in MRR. Hopefully we see maybe more trials. But in particular, I'm keeping a lot of eyes on that ChatGPT number and the Google number. If those keep climbing, I'm really, really hopeful for the snowball effect that can have. So I'll see you next week.